Have you ever, on a quiet night like tonight, wondered, where do our stories come from? Where did we learn to name the moon, the sun, or to whisper words of love? And from where, within that nascent consciousness, did a belief in things grand and sacred, things beyond our tangible world, first begin to blossom? Today, let us journey back in time together, not with complex machines, but with imagination and listening. Let us return to a world without writing, without majestic cathedrals, to touch that first moment, when language found its voice, and religion first stirred in the human heart. This is the story of the tiny seeds that sprouted into all of human civilization, the dawn of consciousness and language. Imagine you are one of them. You walk upon the earth under a vast sky. You feel the wind, smell the rain approaching, see the gaze of beasts in the shadows. The world is overflowing with signs and sounds, yet it all remains a veil of mystery. How do you tell your kin about the fear of hunger? How do you warn of a tiger stalking behind the bushes? And then, from the profound depth of that need to connect, the first intentional sounds were formed. No longer mere instinctual cries, but purposeful syllables. It might have been a grunt pointing towards prey, a gasp of awe at the moon, or a more complex series of sounds describing the location of a water source. Language was born as a miracle, the first true social magic. It transformed personal experiences into shared treasures. It wove invisible threads, binding solitary individuals into a community. The birth of story and symbol. As language grew richer, it was no longer just for describing what is. It began to reach for what was and what could be. The first stories were told by the flickering light of a fire. Tales of a successful hunt, of a mighty ancestor, of a strange dream featuring a giant bird. And then, those stories began to change. Humans, with boundless imagination, started to ask, why? Why does the sun rise and set? Why are there thunderstorms and floods? Why do people die? They looked at the world and saw a wondrous order, but also mysterious, inexplicable powers. Here, a pivotal turn in consciousness occurred. Humans began to assign souls to the forces of nature. The mountain was no longer just a rock, but a majestic deity. The river was no longer just water, but a spirit, sometimes gentle, sometimes wrathful. The sun was a supreme life-giving god. This was the birth of primordial religion, animism. Everything had a spirit, and language was the very tool to communicate with those spirits. Ritual and the power of blessings, prayers. But belief alone was not enough. They needed a way to interact with the gods. And so, the first rituals were born. They believed that through dance, through song, through incantations, they could influence the spirit world. They danced in imitation of animals, hoping the coming hunt would be successful. They directed their prayers to the sky, yearning for good weather and rain. Language, at this point, was no longer an ordinary communication tool. It became sacred. Every word spoken in ritual carried a special power, a magical force. They believed that naming a deity or recounting a successful hunt from the past would cause it to happen again in the future. This was the precursor to prayers and incantations. Language became the bridge between the visible and the invisible worlds, between humanity and the supernatural. From animism to gods and organized religion, as humans transitioned from hunting and gathering to settling and farming, their worldview shifted. They became more dependent on the land, the weather, the seasons. The gods, too, became specialized. no longer vague spirits. But now there was a god of agriculture, a goddess of fertility, a god of storms. And then, to maintain an increasingly complex social order, the stories about the gods grew more intricate. Mythologies were born, stories of the world's creation, of wars among the gods, of the origin of death. These myths did not just explain nature, they established moral rules and laws for the community. From here, a special class emerged: the shamans, the priests, the seers. They were the ones believed to possess a special ability to communicate with the divine. They held the sacred language, the complex rituals, and became the guardians of society's foundational stories. Primordial religion had evolved into organized systems of belief, and language was the very material used to build them. Legacy in the modern world. We often think we have come so far from our primordial ancestors, but if we listen quietly, we can hear them still whispering to us, in every word we speak, in every belief we hold. Look at our language. Metaphors like the fury of the storm, or concepts like heaven and hell. These are the legacy of animism, inherited and refined over millennia. Fairy tales of witches and benevolent spirits, the gods of Greek or Indian mythology, all carry the silhouette of those primal nature spirits. And in our spiritual lives, whether you follow a religion or not, the rituals, the prayers, the hymns, they still carry the primordial power of language and belief. They connect us, comfort us in the face of life's and death's mysteries, and give us an ethical framework to exist. The greatest lesson from the past is perhaps this: the need to tell stories and seek meaning is the deepest human instinct. We cannot live without story, and we forever yearn to connect with something greater than ourselves. Language and religion, from their very inception, have been the two arms helping us achieve just that. And so, from the first babbling sounds in the deep forests, from the dances under starry skies, our ancestors planted seeds. The seed of language sprouted into poetry, literature, and science. The seed of religion grew into vast forests of faith, sheltering the human soul from the storms of life. Today, when you say thank you before a meal, when you tell your child a story before bed, or when you gaze upon a beautiful scene and feel an indescribable awe, that is you participating in a grand story, one that began tens of thousands of years ago. We are not separate from the past. We are its continuation. We are the echo of primordial prayers, the ember from ancient fireside tales, still glowing brightly in each of our hearts. Cherish your words. Cherish your stories. For within them lies the entire history of the human soul. Thank you for listening. May you have a peaceful night, filled with beautiful dreams.